Hello, hello. Today I'm going to explain to you what macros are and how to track them. So I kind of came across macros a couple of years back now where I wasn't really getting results. I was working out, I was eating healthy, clean, and I was gaining weight. And I was like, I just don't understand why this is happening. And for me, it was, I noticed all of the bodybuilders were shredding just before show day, but they were still maintaining their muscle. And I thought to myself, there has to be a method to this. I ended up reaching out to around 10 people on Instagram and saying, what do you do? People that had quite large muscle mass, boys and girls, and everybody said weight training and macros. So I was like, what is macros? So I kind of went down that path, studied it, and wanted to know everything about it. So today I'm going to actually explain to you what it means, because everyone's like, oh yeah, try and have more protein. You're like, what is that? What does that actually mean? So we've got calories. So that's like the whole thing. And then you've got the breakdown of calories up here, and then you've got the breakdown of macros. So what makes that up is carbs, fats, and proteins. And then you've got your micronutrients, which is all of your other things like magnesium and all that, but we're not going to worry about that today. So we've got carbs, fats, proteins. So 1 gram of protein is equivalent to 4 calories. 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So as you can see, these ones here, they are both 4, and this one here is over double. So when you're working out your macros, a lot of coaches will kind of try and, be quite even, but the fat tends to be lower majority of the time because it's obviously worth a lot more. So then we've got, they've all got their own individual, reasons for being there. So carbohydrates, really, really good for your brain health. We need carbs to function. When you are depleted of carbohydrates, it's not always good. You feel probably a little bit flustered, when you just need that bit of a sugar hit. That's why carbs are good. Secondly, protein helps you feel really full, helps repair tissue, helps grow muscle. Without that protein, when you're just having a diet with carbs and fats, you're not going to feel as satisfied as what you would with protein in there. So protein, obviously, really important for that. And then fats, really important as well, because that's helps your hormone health, your making sure you get your period. If you cut your fats back completely, your organs can start doing all sorts of things that we don't want. So all 3 are very important, and it's quite important to have a balanced diet. So basically, I guess if you are watching this because you're trying to lose weight, you could, and also gaining muscle, kind of the rule of thumb, I drew this beautiful picture. So with the macros and working out, it's kind of taking the guesswork out of dieting, I guess. That's why it's a really powerful tool. So we can now work out what your weight, height, with your weight, height, and your age, how many calories you will generally burn. Obviously, there's heaps of other things, you've got to do, like your activity, how much your movement, the way your body's, built and all that sort of stuff, and how much muscle mass you have. But generally there's calculators out there, and you can find a calculator and it will say, Kandy Rogers burns, say for example, 2,000 calories. So without me doing anything else, I will burn 2,000 calories. That number's not correct, by the way, but so 2,000 calories. So in order for me to lose weight, I need to eat, say, 1,700 calories, and I'm in a deficit. So therefore, I will lose weight. If I'm eating the 2,000, I will maintain weight. If I eat 2,200, I will gain weight or muscle, whatever it is. So when you're trying to follow your macros and you're trying to gain muscle, you obviously need to feed your muscle and not be on a deficit. You can actually gain muscle on a deficit, but anyway, technically speaking, just for argument's sake. So I've got a bit of a diagram here. So maintaining at 2,000, if we are wanting to gain, would be 2,200. And if we're going to lose 1,700, these numbers, you could go lower, you could go a bit higher, again, lower and higher. So even if it was 2,100, technically you would be gaining, right? So that's kind of the rule of thumb. So what can happen is, you know, say your whole life you've done, majority of your life you've done sport, you've stopped doing sport because of an injury, you've had children, and you're like, I'm eating the same as what I've always eaten. I don't understand why I'm gaining weight. I just don't get it. You might be eating the same, but when you exercise, that helps you, you know, that burns calories. So so now I've gone from 2,000 to me actually, you know, I can eat more than 2,000, like 2,100 without gaining because I've added the exercise. When you're tracking, I suggest not adding your exercise or your steps to your food because it can kind of distort it a little bit. It doesn't really know, the computer doesn't know how hard you're working. So you might put in a weight session for 45 minutes and it's saying you're burning, you know, 300 calories, but in reality you're burning only 100, and it adds to your macro, it adds to your food, which is kind of like tricky. So I always try and stay to, you know, say it was a 2,000, I'd be like, do that, don't add any form of exercise to that number. So when it's tracking, do tracking. When it's like exercise, it's kind of like a bonus, I suppose. So I'm just going to have a little drink. So then we've got kind of like the breakdown. So the carbohydrates, before we move on from that, so you're going to find your number. So that's number one. You're going to go, okay, cool. We're going to calculate. So whatever your goal is, to lose weight, gain muscle, or to maintain, you're then going to put that in your either chronometer or MyFitnessPal, and then you're going to put the calorie amount. So just to put it out there, and I said this the other night, is technically speaking, if I were 2,000 and I were to eat 1,700 calories as just calories, and just to eat Mars bars, for example, 1,700 calories of Mars bars, technically I would lose weight because I'm not going over. They do all of these diets all over the world. They're like, I just had eggs, I just had cabbage, I just had XYZ. It's because they're not going over the 1,700 calorie mark or 1,500, you know, and say it might be, you know, certain fitness stuff, things where they do those challenges, they might give you 1,000 calories, and a lot of places do that. And in that 8-week period, you lose weight because you are not eating much calories, you're in a deficit. So another thing with tracking is I would suggest going like a week to 2 weeks of just tracking what you're generally eating. So then you get a really good idea, because you might go, oh my goodness, I've been consuming 3,000-4,000 calories a day. And then your deficit, so then you've kind of got your benchmark up here. So your deficit, you might not need to go that low. You might only need to drop, say 5, you know, if you were 3,000 calories, you might only need to go 2,500 calories, and you're in a deficit because your body has been used to using that amount of energy. So it's about everything in this it's kind of testing the waters. The goal is to eat as much food as you can possibly eat. And if you're on a fat loss journey, then you're just bringing it down until you're in that range. But we want to try and have as much energy. We want to eat as much food as possible. So that is the goal. So hopefully that makes sense on the reality of fat loss or weight gain, is that if you are gaining weight, it's you're eating too much to what you're burning, or you might have stopped exercising or not exercising enough. And it's just pretty much that. And then you've got your hidden calories. So sometimes clients will come to me and they'll be like, but I'm barely eating and I'm just having, you know, little snacks here and there, but the snacks that they're having are really high calories. So they don't feel like they're eating much, but the calorie content. So a good example is nuts. In a little, you know, 7-8 nuts, so 30 grams is calories is 175 calories. So if your deficit says 1,500 and you're having, you know, 175 calories, and that's not very many nuts, you can see that if you were to have 2 of those and then you're having this, you're not actually eating a large quantity. So you're not feeling like you're eating lots of food, but the calories are enough to to push you over, and therefore you are gaining or not losing. So it's like the hidden calories, keeping in mind all of that. So we've got carbohydrates are things like fruit, pasta, rice, wraps, bread, vegetables. So that's kind of like your carbohydrates. Fats are, you've got your butters, your oils, even, a lot of treats tend to be carbs and fats predominantly. So like a Mars bar is carbs and fats and no protein generally. So that's your carbs, that's your fats. Fats also, like an egg is kind of half. It's got fats and protein. So that's that one. Cheese is a good one. So cheese, fats is 8.2, carbs is under 1, and protein 6.3. So that's a protein and a fat, predominantly fats. And then you've got your protein powder. So what I'm going to kind of do is give you a bit of a rundown and show you some foods where you could potentially be blowing out your calories without even kind of realizing, and how to track it. So tracking is kind of like a foolproof tool to go, well, how much am I consuming? Am I going over my target? And that makes sense to why you might be gaining and not realizing. So what we're going to then, protein is meats, fish, obviously protein powder, and then cheese also, like I said, has got protein. So that's kind of, you're trying to put on, it's quite hard. Majority of my clients that come on with me, they struggle with protein. Like protein's always like, oh my gosh, how am I going to eat that much protein? And then when they start eating the right amount of protein, they're like, I feel so good, I feel so full, I feel so satisfied. So predominantly having, your meat with your carbohydrates, remembering we're trying to go even. So, something like salmon is a good one. So salmon is protein 11.3 and fats is 2.7 on this type. But now when you go on a normal piece of salmon, the fat content's quite high, which I'm going to show you as well. So I like to use the chronometer. I don't know if that's exactly how you say it, chronometer. And the reason I like to use that one is because unlike MyFitnessPal, there are so many different options with MyFitnessPal and anybody can add to it. Whereas with this one, it's only they choose who can add to it. So it's like nutritionists can add to it. So let's just give you a little rundown. So I'm going to show you what that app looks like. That one there. So we click onto it and then you've got all of your targets up the top. So protein, carbs, and fats. So then you're going add meal. It's super easy. Add food. And then up the top there, you scan. So what you do is you will scan in. So scan. It comes up. And then that wrap is 24 grams of carbs, 9 grams of protein, and 3.6 grams of fats. And then you're going add to diary, and then it comes off your total. So it's like so simple to track your food because you're going, okay, cool. So you scan it. Another thing, so my kind of philosophy, I'm going to say on food is to read your ingredients and know what you're consuming. Let's give you a little example. When you are reading the ingredients here, there is a lot of ingredients. So we've got wheat flour, water, vegetable shortening, palm oil, sugar, acidity regulator 297, preservative 282, mineral salt 500, preservative 200, and yeast. Now, that's a lot of ingredients versus something like this, which ingredients are rye wholemeal flour, wheat flour, filtered water, and salt. So I recognize all of those ingredients. So I would much prefer to consume something like that than this one. Now, a little bit of a confusion is people go, okay, well, I'm going to have, having less might be less calories, but that's not necessarily true. So let's have a look. So what you do when you're looking, you always go on quantity. So there's 6 in here, so there's 6 wraps, so that's the quantity there. And then here we've got our protein, fats, and carbs. So on it here, I wish I could have this up on my screen, but I'm not that tech savvy. So 1 wrap protein is 7.1. So let's, for argument's sake, say you've got 120 grams of protein, 130 grams of carbohydrates, and 55 fats. So that's your breakdown, right? So in this one here, you've got 7.1 grams of protein. The fat content is 7.9. So you've only got 55 for the day. So that's a lot of here. Now you add mayonnaise to that. That's another 10 grams of fat. You add some, you might do chicken thigh, which is potentially another 10 grams of fat. You might end up kind of going over your quota very, very quickly by having, say, this wrap with all of your fillings in it. And that's kind of where you can go over. I always look at macros as hitting my targets versus taking them away. I tracked for years because I was like, oh my gosh, I want to hit, at that time it might be 140 grams of protein. Like I want to hit that, not I want to take it away. So that's kind of the cool thing about macros. The reality is you can eat anything. That's why it's flexible dieting, because you kind of, like there's no rules in it, but if you, as long as you stick to your macros, you will lose weight or gain muscle. So that's kind of where the flexible dieting, which you see all over Instagram and Facebook, it's like, I flexible diet, I can eat whatever I want, but it's usually within a range. And as long as you don't go over that range, you're going to get the results. So the carbohydrates on this is 44. So in 1 wrap, you can see 45. So that's like nearly half of your daily intake if you were, say, on 120, 130, like, nearly half. So that's a lot in 1 wrap. So for me, I kind of wouldn't want to have, like, sometimes I'll be like, yep, I want to have the wrap, like that's fine. But for me, I like to get more bang for my buck when I'm in a deficit. So I'm like, okay, what can I have that's going to really fill me up? But it's still going to like keep me under the quota. Like that's what I was kind of like when I was trying to lose. So whereas this one here, so that's 44 carbs, whereas this one here is 13.9. So technically speaking, you can have 1, 2, 3 of these to 1 of these. So you're kind of like getting more bang for your buck, so to speak. And then, but the thing is on this one is that the protein 2.6, whereas on this one, it's 7.1. The fat content on this one is 7.9. The fat content on this one is 0.4. So, depending on how calorie conscious you want to be, you could have 3 of these to 1 of these and you still got a little bit left over. But again, read your ingredients. Can you recognize them? Can you not? Yeah, sugar-free stuff is less calories, because I know like ask that question a lot. Like, can I just have the sugar-free? Do your research. A lot of sugar-free stuff comes with, like, it gives you gas and it's not very nice on the gut for a lot of people. I don't believe that there's enough research out there, like long-term research on what certain ingredients do. So do your research. I just try and stick to ingredients I know and minimal ingredients. But that's, again, don't take my advice on that. Do your own research. So another little thing might be is, say, additives with sauces. You might pick up something like this and go, oh yeah, cool, it's all natural pad thai. So the ingredients is pretty good. Coconut sugar. Well, coconut sugar is still a sugar. Water, coconut milk, shallot, salt, chili, shrimp paste, paprika, and you've got the spices. Now, this is saying there is 3 servings in this. 3 servings in this little packet. So for 1 serving, it's 18.4 carbs. So in this packet, 18 times 3. So you've got a lot of carbohydrates in this one little packet, whereas you might go a little packet like this, and the carbs are 2.6 per serving. You've got 4 servings in that. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. So that's like around, a lot less in this powdered form than this one here. That's a lot of carbohydrates for one little serving, 18.4 for one third of this. So you could see quite quickly how, your little additives, it all adds up in calories. That's 86 calories for one serve. So you put that on your dinner, and then you've got your rice on top of that, and you could potentially be blowing out your whole calorie intake in one meal. So it kind of, you need to work out how you can spread it out if you are on a fat loss journey, that is. So sauces are a big one. So another goodie to talk about is like tuna. Great source of protein. Again, I like to go wild caught. This is not wild caught. So the ingredients, you got your tuna. So one's got oil and one does not. So this one here is 16 grams of protein in one serve, 0.7 grams of fat, and 0 grams of carbs. So versus this one here, which is fat's 5.9, protein 7.3, carbohydrates, under 0.1. So even just like that little thing, you're eating the same amount, but it's got obviously a lot higher fat, 5.9, which if your quota was say 55, that can push you over quite quickly. So that's a good little one. So again, how you're scanning that, it's so easy. You're going, in your meal, you're adding your food, going up the top in the scan, and you simply scan it in, and then you add to your diary. And voila, it comes off the top. So another thing you can do with this is go in there and add recipes. So I get a lot of questions about how do you add recipes? So you've got your pasta. Say you want to do a spaghetti bolognese, the way that you'll do it. So just to keep in mind, this packet of pasta is saying there is 5 servings in it. So out of 5 servings, 1 serving out of this, 1 serving is 70 carbohydrates for 1 serving, 14 grams of protein, and 1.5 grams of fat. So what you would do if you're going to do a spaghetti bolognese is you would add the recipe. You're going to add the whole packet. So you're going to do 5 servings. So you scan the pasta in, and then you go 5 servings, and then you say you're going to do a kilo of mince. You do a kilo of mince, and then you put in your pasta sauce and whatever else you add. And then I always, for the first time I'm doing a recipe, I then divide it out into bowls or containers, so I know how many serves I'm going to do. So once I've done it once, I'm like, yep, I know how much that is, and I fill up that kind of same container. So in this case, I would add, and then you go divided by 6 servings, and then it will tell you the exact breakdown of the calories. So yeah, keeping that in mind, I don't think people realize, when you do have a little small bowl of spaghetti bolognese, it's not a bad thing at all. But when you're on a deficit, you can see, these sorts of things add up, and you might not even realize how many calories there really are in a small serving. And that's why people kind of do gain without, realizing why am I gaining and where's it happening? And obviously metabolism slows down as you get older. Another little thing is 25 grams. So I'm talking a little cut off, like just that top bit there. Around that would be 25 grams, so just a tiny bit, is 6.3 grams of protein and 8.2 grams of fat, and under 1 gram of carbohydrates. So if you're adding, a little slice, but who does that? You're adding a decent amount of cheese, or you're having that little bite, you're actually having quite, so that's the amount of calories that is around 100 calories. You're putting that on your wrap. And then you are, adding your meat and your this and that. It can add up quite quickly with your macros. So if you are struggling to, push up your protein, you can do a protein powder. So I'm going to show you what this one is. So the protein is 26.5, 0.3 grams of fat, and 1.3 grams of carbs. So that is predominantly protein. A lot of other protein powders, I have seen a couple that are like 300 to 500 calories in 1 serving, but the carbohydrates are like 50. So you've got to really know your ingredients and know read the back of it, because something can be marketed so well to not be to being low calories or losing, but the calories are really high. So for me, if I'm going to have a scoop of protein, and some like, in a water or a shake or in a smoothie, if you add, fruits and stuff like that to a normal protein, I'm not going to feel as satisfied for as long, because it kind of gets digested a little bit quicker than actually physically eating. So for me, I want to be able to like not have too many calories in that and then add the calories, but I want to feel fuller for longer. So I always opt, when I started my journey, I used to have that a lot. Now I don't, I just have whole foods, just because it fills me up a lot more. Sauce, I bought this sauce just to kind of show you, because this is an Aldi one. I know a lot of people have it. So this one here is 5.9 grams of carbs. Sauces are carbs. It has lots of stuff in it, like sugar, salt, thickeners, 1422, 415, acidity regulator 260, colors. It's got a lot of random stuff. I much prefer the good sauce. I was going to get that and I forgot it, so I wrote the good sauce one, and it's only got a few ingredients and it's everything you recognize. So this one here, 5.9 in 10 mils. So that's around 2 teaspoons of this one, and you've added 5.9 carbs. So I guess it's just about, having that little bit of sauce or having it does add up if you are 100% tracking. Maple syrup, 2 teaspoons of this is 8.9 carbohydrates, no fats and no protein. And I love this brand for its snack. I love this so much. And this is not sponsored in any way. So this one here is 20 grams of protein, 20.1 grams of protein for one serve, 3.8 grams of fat, and carbs is 1.2. So this is a good little protein snack if you're like on the road and you just want some protein. I love them. Peanut butter. I have peanut butter, and I did get asked the other night about, do I have pre-workout? I don't have pre-workout. I don't really think that it's great for you, in my opinion. But what I do have is I have a banana with peanut butter, and there's no reason for that. I have a little bit of salt on top as well before I work out, so there's something in my belly. I just like the taste of it. And I have usually like a shot of coffee. So peanut butter. So 1 tablespoon of this is 10.9 grams of fat. Protein is 6.1 and carbs is 2.4. So a lot of people for some reason think this is predominantly protein when it's not. It's actually predominantly fats. Again, this is just peanuts and salt, which I like, because a lot of the other peanut butters have other random preservatives and other ingredients in it. So yeah, I do like that one. There's a few really good ones out there now as well that are, just peanuts and salt. The butter I like this one because it's only got cream and salt. There's only 2 ingredients, a lot of the other butters. And if you follow along, you would see my post with butters and see how many random ingredients there are in a lot of butters. So this one here, protein is less than 1 gram. So the serving size is 5 grams, which is a teaspoon. Fat is 4.1 and carbs is less than 1. So I just want to show you in there. That's the list I'm looking at there. That's where it is. You don't need to look at the saturated and stuff when you're following the macros, and then the ingredients list, cream and salt. So yeah, that's how you track that. And obviously scan. Pretty much everything's in the Chronometer or the MyFitnessPal. I just don't love the MyFitnessPal anymore because, like I said, it's just so many different things. And it's like hard to really keep track because there's like 30 different, I don't even know how many states there are. You're like, which one is it? Whereas, that app is a lot better. If you, there is more to fat loss and more on your journey. If you are somebody who, was doing the right macros and you're still not losing, even though, you might not be in enough of a deficit, you might have been a chronic dieter. So then your calories have to be quite low. So there might be a period where you need to eat more food to then pull it down. I would highly recommend having a coach to do that with, because, you don't want to destroy anything in your body anymore. The other thing is like, if you are somebody, you know, making sure you're drinking enough water is really, really important in this stage. Like if you are trying to lose water, sleep is really important. Like if you're not getting enough sleep, you are going to be hungrier. And, you know, even me, I lost a little bit of sleep on Saturday night and I was so hungry Sunday. I was like, oh my gosh, there was no way I could have, you know, held back at all. So if I was in a deficit at that point, I would have been, yeah, shocking. So sleep is so important if you're on your fat loss journey, even if you're trying to gain muscle, like sleep, 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 water, water, water. And what else is, I'm like, what else have I forgotten now? Water, sleep, obviously your food, whole foods. If you're doing all of that and things are not working, or even before you do all of this, I would highly recommend you book into a nutritionist and get your bloods checked. I think that this is a really, really important part to your journey, to know that your bloods are okay, your iron's not low, because if you're doing all of this and then you're in a deficit and your iron's really low, you're just going to, you know, put more pressure on your body that you just don't need. So checking your bloods, like checking everything first, seeing a health professional before you go on a strict, you know, macros thing, I would, yeah. And also, yeah, definitely having a coach is key in that phase, because, you know, you've got so many questions and, you know, how do I do this? How do I track that? And I know at my start of my journey, I was very much like that. And a lot of the girls that I coach are, you know, always asking questions at the start, because it's just like that adjustment. Macros, I don't feel are designed to be forever. It's designed to be something in your toolbox. So if you know, do want to gain muscle in a period, or you do want to lose, you know, once you know how to track, you know forever. So it might be 6 months down. Now I don't track. So I am maintaining really well. And if I want to lose, I'm like, yeah, I'll get on my macros and I'll start tracking again. So, and the great thing about macros is you can do it, you can eat whatever you like, essentially, as long as you're tracking. It's not restrictive like a lady shape diet or a keto diet, whatever it may be. And it's the same thing, like all of these diets, they've got the same idea. It's cutting calories, and it's like it's all the same. Like you don't have to diet, you don't have to do, I don't even want to like label any, but you don't have to do these strict diets where you're cutting out whole food groups just to lose weight, when all you're doing is, like, you know, for example, the keto diet tends to be, people go, oh my gosh, I've lost so much weight on my keto diet. And then it's like, well, what did you change? Oh, I don't eat any carbohydrates now. But they've just really, what they've done is they've cut out the calories, because they were having, you know, your treats, your chocolates and all that sort of stuff. And suddenly they can't. So then when you look at the whole, they just cut calories. So could you have done that in a nicer way, rather than going, I'm not able to eat carbohydrates, I'm not able to eat X, Y, Z? I think so. Like, I much prefer having that balance. I think that all of the macros are very important to us. So I hope that that helps and makes sense. I definitely want to help you more if you are needing that. If you are needing coaching or anything like that as well, or just want to ask me some questions, my DMs are always open to help and support you through that. If you've just got, yeah, any tracking questions, because I've been there, done that, and all my clients, I'm sure I've answered all of the questions. So yeah, definitely hit me up. Don't be shy, because I love helping people. But yeah, any more questions? I think I've covered it all. I think it all makes sense. I hope. But yeah, I hope that you have a good day. And I'll talk to you soon.